This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So the Browns had their first practice of the week, and we've been waiting for this day so we can get an idea on who's going to be playing, who's not, what could look to be an issue, what's not going to be an issue, things like that, right? You just want to get a good idea of how much these injuries were going to affect you. I know people have put themselves on a roller coaster ride with this whole Myles Garrett thing. I pointed out at the end of the game, Myles Garrett finished that game. He's probably going to play next week. Or if he does miss a game, he's missing one game. It doesn't look like this is even close to an end of the season thing for him. But I saw a lot of people jump to that, and they used the Deshaun Watson situation to jump themselves to that. But again, it feels like we keep forgetting Deshaun Watson plays quarterback. We forgot that when we were evaluating what a throwing shoulder injury could do to a quarterback while he had the injury. And now when we're evaluating Myles, we're using it with the same lens of, oh, it's a quarterback. It's not. It's not. He's very important, but he's not the quarterback. And what I mean by that is injuries that take out a quarterback for the year just aren't going to be the same with the edge rusher. Like, he can play through more than a quarterback can when it comes to a shoulder injury. And today, despite all kind of panic, Myles Garrett was off. He didn't practice today, but he was off on the side working, not wearing a sling. So good news. And he moved the shoulder around. So he looked a lot better than he did after the Broncos game. It is basically the main gist of things that happened there. Now DTR also didn't practice today. But Amari Cooper did practice today. Other players who didn't practice: Marquise Goodwin, who we know out with the concussion, Kareem Hunt out with the groin, Juan Thornhill, calf. Pretty sure Kareem's going to play. Pretty sure Juan's going to play. Pretty sure Wyatt's going to play. He didn't practice. And Denzel Ward's shoulder. Hopefully he gets back soon. I think we need him back this week because he is important to making sure that that defense works. Another thing that got announced was Joe Flacco is now the backup quarterback. Now, we kind of all thought that this was coming, that Joe Flacco would end up being the backup quarterback. People have had to debate on whether it should be Joe Flacco or DTR, but one thing there wasn't a debate on was whether Joe Flacco should be the backup to DTR. And the reason I didn't think this was even close to a debate is DTR needs a backup like Joe Flacco. And the Browns need a backup like Joe Flacco if they're going to play DTR, right? If you had Deshaun and he was available, PJ Walker makes sense, like they did when Deshaun was available, just wasn't able to play. But when you're with DTR, he plays a more similar style to Jacoby Brissett, and so does Joe Flacco. And basically, that's what they're going to ask out of Joe Flacco, DTR. You're running the Jacoby Brissett offense, and we saw last week PJ Walker not really super equipped to run that offense. So let's switch over to some of the things so we can talk about what we can expect from one Joe Flacco. So that's the injury news. Now what can we expect from Joe Flacco? And I'm going to pull up some of his PFF stuff and some of his charts. Joe Flacco, passing depth. He was not great last year throwing the ball deep. And then let's just keep going back and see if he ever was good at throwing the ball deep. He was good at throwing the ball deep in 2021. He didn't do it much. He only threw it 5 times, so it's not really a great sample. If we go all the way back to, when was his last year in Baltimore? 2017? His last full year in Baltimore. We can go back to his best year in Baltimore. He was a pretty good deep ball thrower. So about 10 years ago, Joe Flacco was a pretty good deep ball thrower. He was really good in 2014 as well. Let's keep going. He was good in 2015. 16, it started to fall off. And it never really got back. Like, kind of got it back a little bit in 19. 2020, it's there. It's there. It's a good deep ball year. You don't do it 26 times. But a good deep ball year in 2020, 2021, decent enough. 22, it was bad. So he might have a little bit more deep ball potential, but I think DTR gives you more dynamic options as a quarterback. You could run with them. You could do the RPO stuff. I'm also interested to see if Joe Flacco's presence will be something that hurts the run game. I can see how he could help it just because he's a veteran. He could check into the right stuff, but he could hurt it because he's just really not a threat to run it on a lot of these gun runs that the Browns like to do. So we'll see there. But the chart, I mean, is very similar to what you expected out of DTR, right? A lot of successful stuff in the middle of the field area, a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, a lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage. It's really not a shock on what the Browns are going to do. You're probably going to see a lot of screens, a lot of play action, stuff that Joe Flacco knows how to run. He's run it before. It's going to look pretty similar, except for Joe's a bit of a veteran. We know that it's time to throw stuff. He's really good at getting rid of the ball quickly. No matter where he's targeting the field, he has like a sub 3.2 second time to throw, which is pretty similar to what DTR was giving you. So he's not going to hold on to the ball long, which is critical when you have a backup tackle in. And we know Joe Flacco does not like to take a ton of sacks. He gets rid of that ball. He throws it real quick, which could mean more 3 and outs, less time of possession. But if he's accurate, it could mean a little bit more success there. I don't expect the offense to look drastically different than it has the last 2 weeks if Joe Flacco plays. Again, I think you're really, like, if I'm being honest with you, your only hope to have an offense that you could categorize as decent to good is if DTR is able to clear this concussion protocol and put some games together. If this is a concussion that lingers, like Marquise Goodwin's has lingered, it's a problem, right? It's a problem for this team. I don't think you hit your ceiling for whatever's left with this offense with Joe Flacco. I think you're probably at your best hitting your ceiling with DTR in there just because he adds that dynamic running threat. He has a tremendous arm and he's capable of some plus throws that Joe Flacco is not necessarily going to be so apt to try anymore. I think Joe Flacco is going to be a great backup option. He's good for this scenario where you think you might miss a guy for a week, and I think he's going to be a good guy to have behind DTR. But I also think that DTR is probably your best case scenario. Like, if you can get him back, let him play, that's your best case scenario. So all that being said, right, I think the offense is going to be ran similar to how it's been ran the last few weeks. It's going to be that Jacoby Brissett style offense. And one of the things that's kind of rough to come to grips to is while the Browns' rushing attack is good, it's a complementary rushing attack at the end of the day, right? It's a rushing attack that's meant to complement a good pass game, which means that I don't really think it's built to carry an offense. Like, when Nick Chubb's out there, you have a rushing attack that can carry an offense, that can get 3rd and longs and all that can run through 8 and 9 man boxes. This is not a rushing attack that's going to run through 8, 9 man boxes. They're not capable of that. That's the difference from having a Nick Chubb and a Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford can do well when he's running as a complement to the passing game, which means you just got to throw more. And I know people don't love that. I know during the game, sometimes I don't feel like you should do that, but this is not a run game that's going to be very successful versus 8, 9 man boxes. You got to have success throwing the ball in order for this team to go anywhere. That's just the flat truth of it, because Nick Chubb not walking through that door. And we can keep acting like it's Nick Chubb, keep acting like we can run the ball like it's Nick Chubb, but it's just not. And maybe one of the things we got so used to was being able to run the ball no matter what, no matter how many guys stack the box. That's just not the world we living in anymore. As Browns fans or as a team, they're just not living in that world anymore. So what does this mean for Sunday versus LA? I think, again, You just got to take care of the football. That's one thing that when DTR was in there the last couple of weeks, he did very well, was take care of the football and not take any sacks. I think he's taken 1 sack and threw 1 interception the last 2 weeks. That's beyond the best numbers of the season from the quarterback position. I expect that trend to continue with Joe Flacco. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to throw a ton of interceptions. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to get sacked a ton. If he does, it's a disaster. Is what it is. You're still 7-5. You're still in the playoff race. But that's kind of where you're at. I think that you'll have enough to make sure that if the defense has a great game, you can capitalize on it offensively. I do think the Rams, while they are a good team, they are an inconsistent team. Some weeks they play great. Some weeks they play bad. It's been like that all year. Like they sweep the Seahawks, but then they'll have some inexplicable performances during the year. Like if you watch that Cincinnati game, they were just awful in that Cincinnati game. So we'll see which Rams team we get, and we'll also see which Browns team we got. I do think them staying in LA for a week for this game will give them more of a home game kind of presence in this one. And maybe this is their way of turning a road game into a home game and get that home game style performance that they're used to getting. I think that this Browns team has a good shot to win this game, regardless of who plays at quarterback. I think DTR probably gives you DTR gives you a better chance to win than Joe Flacco, but I think Joe Flacco still gives you a chance to win. If you're playing PJ Walker in this kind of an offense, doing what the Browns are asking him to do, I don't think we could survive that. But Joe Flacco, it'll be fine enough, right? That's just asking Joe Flacco to do what Jacoby Brissett did last year. And then asking the defense to do what they've done most of the year. And I think you can walk out of LA with the win. And if you do, you're at 8-4 and you're sitting a lot better for the rest of the year, because that means all you have to do is take care of business against the 3 teams that you feel like you should beat, right? You feel like you should beat the Bears. You feel like you should beat the Cincinnati Bengals. And then you got to find a way to get one of the other games on that roster. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. And if you want to know more about the playoff scenarios for the Cleveland Browns, I did a video earlier today about that. So make sure you guys check that out. If you want to know more about what the Browns defense is going to have to do, did a film breakdown from last week talking about what the Browns need to do this week versus the Rams in order to ensure that they play at the level that we expect. And I expect them to play at the level that we expect. But that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.